Hi everyone. Looks like this meeting is finally drawing to a close. Looks like the 7th person never showed up though. Well, putting that aside, let's start my story. My name is Hosoda Tomoharu. I'm a 2nd grader. Kurata-san, you know about the toilets beside the gym that are forbidden to use, right? Those gloomy toilets that have been left there all this time, even though nobody can use them. They're creepy, aren't they? And a waste of space. They should fix them so we can use them, or get rid of them entirely. But there's actually a reason why they haven't done either of those things. There's something there. No matter how often they try to cleanse it, no matter how great of a person they call in, they just can't save that place. I'm a little late in telling everyone, but I'm really good at seeing ghosts. Especially when it comes to toilets as well. It's a little strange even to me, but I pick up this strange supernatural energy as I approach them. Even for me, those toilets aren't a place I can go near. The spiritual energy hanging around there is peculiar and different to other types. How can I put it? It's not human. Hey, Kurata-san, what do you think it is? Kitsune. What a pity. It's actually a tanuki. Well, even for me, both tanuki and kitsune are pretty similar. And so, that's the reason why we can't use those toilets anymore. A while ago, this school used to have a tanuki. It wasn't like anyone was raising it in a kennel or anything. For some reason, it got lost and found its way into our big city school. It was such a rare sight that everyone fawned over it. Every day during lunch it would appear on the back grounds and people would feed it. I mean, animals really are cute, huh? Everyone was so happy that they split their lunch with it. But still, people eventually got sick of it. They stopped coming to see it. Only one person didn't. He continued looking after it. Sadly, we don't know his name, but he was a male student. Day after day, he gave the tanuki food. He even gave it a name. I don't know what that name was, so I'll just call it Bunkichi. Bunkichi became very attached to him. But it would be dangerous if the teachers found him. Our school in particular is kind of fussy over things like this. It might have fleas or lice or such. So he thought about what to do. If the tanuki appeared in such a public place each day, the teachers would soon discover it. He decided to hide the tanuki in the toilets by the gym. The teachers didn't often use those toilets. They'd never find it there. The boy built a house in one of the boys' toilet stalls and had Bunkichi live in there. I'm sorry, it's a little smelly, but please do your best. I'm also going to close the cover so you don't walk around, but you can handle it, right? Having said that, he covered a cardboard box with netting so Bunkichi couldn't walk around while he was in class. That day, he quickly finished lunch and hurried with the leftovers to Bunkichi. "Sorry to keep you waiting. You must be hungry." He entered the toilets, but he was so shocked that he dropped his bento on the floor. What do you think happened? Would you believe it? Bunkichi was dead. Or, more truthfully, he had been killed. This is what happened. It happened during classes earlier that day. A student was skipping class and he wandered into the toilets. He heard an animal crying somewhere, and finding it strange, he checked out the toilets. He soon found Bunkichi. What the hell is this? He wasn't especially interested in tanukis, but for some reason, he took Bunkichi out of his box. Bunkichi struggled and tried to run. Having just found something to play with, the boy wasn't going to let Bunkichi go, so he grabbed him tightly. Bunkichi then bit down hard on his finger. "Ah! You little shit!" He threw Bunkichi to the floor. Bunkichi, free from his grasp, tried to run. "Get back here, you shit!" He rushed over and grabbed him. "You're not getting away that easily." He grabbed Bunkichi tightly, taking care to hold him so he couldn't bite him again. "Alright, now we're gonna have some fun. I'm gonna take my time. I hope you're ready." Having said that, he began tormenting Bunkichi. What do you think he did to him? Water torture. All right, your punishment is water torture. He bound both of Bunkichi's arms and feet so he couldn't move. Then, holding his tail, he made his way towards the wash basin. He filled it with water and thrust Bunkichi's face into it. Bunkichi struggled and lifted his head just like he was doing sit-ups to get some air. But he couldn't keep his head up for long, and again it was thrust into the water. Seeing him like that, the student was extremely happy. Hey, if it's painful, you just gotta lift your head up. Each time his head went under the water, he drank some in, and his body got heavier. On top of that, Bunkichi was racked with coughs, and soon lost his battle, unable to raise his head anymore. Ah, come on. You're done already? Whatever. My arms are tired anyway. When he lifted Bunkichi up, the water he had swallowed gurgled out. Ugh, gross. If you're gonna throw up, do it in the toilet. He then took Bunkichi over to the toilet. Do it here. He shook Bunkichi up and down. Get. Bunkichi threw up all the water he'd drunk. No matter how much more he shook him, only drool came out. All right, after throwing up, you gotta flush the toilet. He placed Bunkichi in the toilet. and flushed. Ugh, he clogged it. Bunkichi's head got stuck where the water flowed, so the water began to flow back. Seeing him like that, the student left him and went outside. Then, Bunkichi was found by the student who had been looking after him. "Bunkichi! Bunkichi!" He rushed over and grabbed his tail, pulling Bunkichi out. However, Bunkichi had already taken his last breath. The student was crushed. Who could do such a thing? He thought that at the very least he could make him a grave, so he dug a grave beside the toilets and buried him there. Several days passed. He never failed to visit Bunkichi's grave. After school one day, he went by the toilet on his way to visit the grave. As he did, someone was destroying the grave. Angry, he ran over to him. "What are you doing?" He warned him, his face red. The other student got angry instead and punched him. Then he said, "I'm the one who killed the tanuki." Hearing that, the boy hit him back, but he was no match for him. Instead, he was beaten to a pulp and dragged into the toilets. The other boy thought to beat him to his heart's content where no one would see them. Then, he continued to hit him. And like that, the toilets came to be covered in blood. The boy was just about to pass out. Suddenly, the other students started acting scared of something. "Ugh! What the hell is that? Get away! Get away from me!" The boy struggled to open his eyes to see what was happening. Then, what do you know? The tanuki spirit was standing there. "Bunkichi." Then he passed out. He'd been severely beaten after all. A short while later, the cold woke him up. Water was flowing out of one of the stalls. When he went to have a look, unbelievably, the guy who had killed Bunkichi had his head shoved in the toilet, dead. It was exactly the same way that Bunkichi had died. Then, scared, the boy ran home. He made sure nobody saw him. He'd been beaten badly, so after that, the boy didn't return to school until his swelling went down. When he finally went back, the male student's mysterious death was the talk of the school. After all, he was found dead with his head shoved into a toilet, a place it shouldn't have fit. Apparently, his head was crushed to a pulp. So much that if he hadn't had his student book on him, nobody would have been able to tell who he was. It wasn't something that any human could pull off. They also found his uniform covered in tanuki hair. Then the rumors started. A mysterious, evil spirit was lurking in those toilets. They said that spirit took on a tanuki's form. And so, people stopped using those toilets. In reality, that's not the end of the story. You want to hear more? Of course, I want to hear more. Okay then, I'll keep going. The guy that was looking after Bunkichi, he started to wonder if what happened was Bunkichi's retaliation. Then, he took his own revenge. He was happy and once again built Bunkichi's grave. He hadn't looked after it was desecrated, you know? Then, for a short while, things were peaceful. One day, the boy was going to visit Bunkichi's grave, as usual. He suddenly needed to go to the toilet. Right next to him was the toilet where the evil spirit was said to lurk. But the boy didn't believe in such a thing. Of course he didn't. He knew that what killed the boy was Bunkichi's spirit. And so, he went to the closest toilet. As he was doing his business, he heard what sounded like a small dog crying. What's that? It wasn't just one voice crying out. It sounded like several voices were crying. He looked around, but nothing was there. He most definitely heard something crying in the toilets, however. Freaked out, he went to leave the toilets. Huh? He felt something nestle close to his feet. He looked down at them. There were several baby tanukis. They were barely a month old. They snuggled up to him like they wanted his attention. How cute! What happened? What are you doing in here? He went to pat them. He probably remembered Bunkichi, and they were so cute that he couldn't stop himself. There, what good puppies. The moment he reached out his hand... Ah! The puppy bit him. He shook his hand to get it off. He was trying to get the puppy off him. Then he realized something strange. The puppy biting him was oddly light. It was like it didn't weigh anything at all. He looked closer at the tanuki pup on his finger. The pup on his hand looked just like a mummy. Panicking, he grabbed the mummy-like tanuki pup and pulled it off. The corpse was shriveled and dried up. When he pulled on it, pieces crumbled and fell. He threw it far away. It was creepy. The pups at his feet were dried up like mummies as well. Just a moment ago, the puppies had been alive, but in an instant, they turned into dried up corpses. The boy's legs trembled, and he couldn't move. Then, the dried up corpses started to move towards him. He sprang from the toilets like he was trying to lift off. Then he heard a voice call out, "I'm hungry, I'm hungry." He ran all the way. He ran all the way to the shoe lockers, and finally he could no longer hear it. What the hell was that just now? He thought it had to have been a hallucination. But the blood dripping from his finger said otherwise. He went to the nurse's office and then returned home. That night, as he slept, he started to hear something crying in the distance, and he woke up. It was like the cry of the tanuki pups from lunch. He pulled his blanket up and trembled. He was remembering those dried up pups. "Go away! I didn't do anything. Don't come any closer." He covered his ears and screamed. But the voices didn't stop crying at all. Then he realized something. The voices were right by his ear. He flew out of bed in a panic. But there was nothing around him that resembled the pups. This time, he heard them coming from the right. Panicking, he withdrew his left hand and then realized the voices were coming from the cut on his hand. Nervously, he unwrapped the bandage covering the wound. Then, the wound was moving, like a mouth opening and closing, and from it, he could hear the cries. "Ah!" he screamed loudly. Seeing your own hand like that, you'd be surprised too. His scream surprised both his father and his mother. They rushed over to his room. When they got there, he was stabbing his own hand with scissors. No matter how much they tried to hold him back, he threw them off and furiously stabbed at his own hand. After that, he was apparently hospitalized for a while. They said he had a mental breakdown. After that, people took the rumors of the evil spirit to be true. Even today, nobody will go near those toilets. But I wonder why those tanuki pups were there. Strange, right? I wonder if they have something to do with Bunkichi. Well, it doesn't really matter anyway. It doesn't really change that something appears over there. Even now, it's really still there. Around March of this year, they tried to demolish the toilets. 3 of the construction workers died strange deaths. They even held a purification ritual beforehand. I've been thinking of going there to have a look myself sometime. Kurata-san, would you go with me? Going by myself is a little lonely. Let's go together, yeah? I'm looking forward to it. Or would you rather go right now? Ha 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 ha! I'm joking. It's just a joke. But really, let's go together sometime. I have another thing to look forward to now. That makes me happy.